Formula One's new season finally gets underway at the Austrian Grand Prix on July 5th, with the first half of the campaign having been postponed because of the coronavirus pandemic. But while the competition will be just as fierce once track action gets underway, F1 is facing a new normal, as it has to operate under strict new protocols to make sure events can go ahead. Let's take a look at what will change for fans, drivers and teams as F1 gets going again. Closed-door races. Whilst there still remains a risk of COVID-19 being transmitted among the general public, no fans will be allowed in for at least the first phase of the championship. F1 is instead planning fully closed-door events where there will be no spectators, no guests, no sponsors, and numbers of other staff present have been cut dramatically. Teams will be operating with reduced personnel, while there will only be a select few media allowed on site to cover the event. Even those press members going will not get access to the paddock or the pits. Instead, they will have to remain in the media centres, and interviews will be conducted with full social distancing put in place or via video conferencing. Don't expect motorhomes either, with F1 thinking it better that teams use the circuit infrastructure and facilities because it will deliver a more controlled environment and minimise the chance of an outbreak. Also, expect everyone at the track to be wearing face masks. Team bubbles. All F1 personnel going to races will have to follow strict instructions on their behaviour prior to and at the event, and every person going into the track will have signed an official FIA code of conduct. For team members who work in the paddock and pit lane, that means that they will have to have had a negative COVID-19 test before being able to travel, and they will also be tested every 5 days while on the road with F1. Now, I don't know if you've seen a COVID-19 test, but that doesn't sound like fun. F1 will also use a contact, track and trace app specifically designed for the close confines of a racing circuit to better allow organisers to deal with an outbreak and know who any infected team member have been in close contact with. Team members will also not be allowed to mix with other competitors, and they have to stay in strict social bubbles to ensure they are only in contact with those that are essential for their job. The FIA said in a recent statement that the number of interactions between groups should be minimised to mitigate virus transmission between groups. Where interactions between groups cannot be avoided without unduly jeopardising safety, sporting governance, or the ability of a competitor to compete in an event, social distancing should be respected, or additional personal protective equipment, or PPE, should be used to mitigate virus transmission. Longer working hours. Thanks to social distancing requirements and the need for team members to wear face masks and other PPE, some garage jobs are going to take longer than normal. Racing Point Technical Director Andy Green said recently that he expected engine changes would now take twice as long. In light of this, teams will be given some extra leeway when it comes to their working hours, with F1's usually strict curfew having been relaxed. Team members can now work 1 hour later on Thursday and Friday evenings, and the curfew now lasts for 8 hours instead of 9. No tyre choices. With F1 needing as much flexibility to get a calendar put in place, and teams and suppliers facing some unique challenges because of it, F1's tyre rules have changed too. Whereas before teams were allowed to pick how many of each type of tyre they wanted for a weekend, now there is a standard allocation. Each driver will get 2 sets of hard, 3 of mediums, and 8 softs. Previously, the tyre supplier had to nominate its compound choices 15 weeks before flyaway races and 9 weeks before European events. Those requirements have been changed, and the rules now say that the allocation should be made known unless otherwise determined by the FIA and with the agreement of the supplier no less than 2 weeks prior to each event. The provision for compulsory running of extra experimental tyres have been tweaked slightly, and now will take place in the first 30 minutes of FP2 instead of the last 30 minutes. Briefings via Zoom. Race officials will be operating in rooms where tables and chairs have been moved apart to ensure social distancing. It has also been agreed that if any drivers are summoned to see the stewards to discuss a matter, that PPE is worn at all times. Drivers and official briefings may now take place outside if a suitably large room cannot be found to hold all those required to attend, or they may be conducted via a video teleconference facility like Zoom. The FIA has also allowed for any travel issues stewards may face in getting to a race by allowing them to work remotely if there is a last-minute drama. No driver parade. The lack of fans, as well as the fact that drivers need to maintain social distancing, means that the regular Sunday morning drivers' parade also will not take place for now. Crowding 20 drivers onto the back of a truck for them then to mingle with each other and be interviewed just isn't feasible amid a pandemic. Instead, it's likely that the drivers will be interviewed one by one in front of their garages in that usual Sunday morning slot, so fans can still get a bit of pre-race build-up excitement. New grid procedure, or no grid at all. One of the most difficult situations over an F1 weekend to manage is the grid build-up to the race, as it is the one point at every event where every team is in close proximity to each other. To try and minimise the chance of contact, grid procedures have been tweaked to allow for social distancing, with a minimal amount of people involved and for less time. Teams are only allowed to have 40 personnel on the grid, a number that equates to exactly half the total headcount that they are now allowed to take to races. Without the usual full pre-race ceremonies, the pit exit now closes 20 minutes before the start, rather than the usual 30. Cars will now have to have their tyres fitted 5 minutes before the start, rather than 3. And at the signal, team personnel and equipment trolleys must start leaving the grid. A new rule states that, when the 3-minute signal is shown, no more than 16 team personnel for each competitor are permitted on the grid. The remaining crew members will have to leave before the 15-second signal, as has been usual. The new 5-minute tyre fitted rule will also apply to race resumptions. However, if a risk analysis determines that having all teams on the grid in the build-up to the race risks too much contact between personnel, then a completely different approach could be taken and the grid build-up could be abandoned completely. The FIA says that one possible solution then would be for the cars to go straight from their garages to the formation lap and race start. No podium. Things will be very different at the end of races too, with F1 unable to run a traditional podium ceremony because of social distancing requirements. There is no way the sport could risk having drivers getting that close to each other or mixing with dignitaries and officials, as is commonplace, just before the champagne celebrations. Instead, there is a plan to have some form of post-race trophy giving down on the grid when the cars return after their slowing down lap. F1 Managing Director of Motorsport Ross Brawn said recently, one option would be to line the cars up on the track and the drivers stand in front of the cars. We can't present the trophies, as you can't have someone in close proximity presenting a trophy, but we have worked it out and we have plans and procedures, and we're looking at how we can present it on TV. So there you have it. F1 is definitely going to look and feel a little different this year, but with almost 4 months since any of these 2020 cars were properly tested, the on-track action could be better than ever. At least, that's what we're all hoping for. What do you think of F1's new measures? And what are you most looking forward to as the 2020 season finally gets underway? Let us know in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed for more videos.